Good morning, everybody. Um, Mike told me that we get extra 15 minutes today. So if y'all will turn in your Bibles to Matthew, we're going to work through Revelation. So he's got me so nervous because he told me that I have 5 minutes. And if anybody knows me, I can't really tell you anything in 5 minutes. So I'm going to use this phone here to try to keep myself within the time. And I'm sure he's going to point at his watch here in a minute. So um, I'll read the questions out just because I want you to know where the answer is coming from. Number one, who are you and how long have you attended Grace? Well, my name is Morrell McCaskill. This is my wife, Julie. We've attended Grace. I said since 2013. She said 2014. So obviously, guys, it's 2014. So just make sure we're clear. How and when were you first introduced to Jesus Christ? Well, I was the stereotypical kid raised in the church. There wasn't a Sunday morning, Sunday school, Sunday morning sermon, Sunday night service, Wednesday night, summer camp, daycare, you name it. I was there. I knew all the Bible stories. When I was growing up, Awana first came out. Everybody knows what Awana is. Most people do. That it's a real fun thing with kids for Wednesday night and that sort of thing. And it really introduces a lot of children to the Word. But that was me. That was me. I was every summer. I mean, my sister even ran the summer children's care up there at the church. My dad was an usher, and as long as I can remember, my dad was even a founding member of a church, a much smaller church back before I was born. So we were church going folk, if you will. So that gives you a little bit of the history. Something calls me to consider God and my faith in Jesus. So this is where the story comes. I went to a Christian high school, was involved in the church a lot. One of my best friends was actually he's now a youth minister himself, and his daddy was a associate pastor at a church and became a head pastor at another church, and we followed him, and man, I was involved. And there's some things that happened that, like we've talked about it here, Mike's talked about it a lot, where you'll have some church people do things to you, and it makes you question the church. And you kind of throw everything that you've learned, all the good, that you've experienced, and the love that you've seen in Jesus, you kind of throw that in the same bag whenever you look at that, and I did that. I had some bad experiences, and it caused me to have some bitter feelings towards the church, so much so that I left. When I went to college, I think I may have gone to church in college half dozen times, if that, maybe 4 times. And one of them was because I was a part of a fraternal group, and we, had to go to church that Sunday. So, I left the church. I spent pretty much the next 10 years in the proverbial sex, drugs, and rock and roll type. I got way out of line and was living a pretty dangerous life, living a life that was as far disconnected from Jesus as you can possibly be. And again, I was still harboring. I mean, anybody would talk to me about it, I'd bring up all these feelings, all these harbored bitterness against the church, and it was really just against the few experiences I had that caused me to become bitter when I was younger. And things got out of hand. Things got really out of hand. and had a couple wake up calls, big wake up calls, and I had to have a come to Jesus talk with myself, um, come to Morrell talk with myself, because it was, boy, I was way gone, and my parents kept trying to get me back in church. When Mike talks about how his parents are, oh, just come to church, and you need to just, come for your mother. Man, I heard that a couple times. And I'd get up, I'd go on Mother's Day morning, and love on mama, kiss on mama, and then leave and go back to that bitterness, right? And but those wake up calls, man, oh, they were obvious, and it really caused me to have a real breakdown and a real hard look at myself and what I had become, and it was ugly, man, it was ugly. And so I decided that this was not who I was. This was not who Jesus wanted me to be. It's not who my parents wanted me to be. It's not who God wanted me to be, and all the talents and all the gifts He'd given me. I was I was squandering them, and I wasn't following them. I wasn't serving Him, and it was very obvious. So in my late 20s, I decided I had a wonderful lady, Miss Kathy Carter. She guilted me into coming to church. I'd been to a couple churches down in Savannah, and I'm a traditional guy. I was, born and raised Southern Baptist, so like Blessed Assurance, like, that's my homeboy right there, man. That gets me all in the feels, you know what I mean? So that's what I was used to. I mean, my dad, we sat down, he had the 8-track of Oak Ridge Brothers, and we'd listen to them. I mean, that's how I grew up. That's what church was to me, but that's also where I really connected, right? That's where my soul was really connected and to Jesus, and I didn't. That was also connected to the bitterness, right? So I didn't want that anymore, and so I tried these new modern churches. I went to a couple in Savannah. I was living in Savannah at the time, and it just, man, I was just a bird out of a cage. I didn't like it. I didn't want it. I didn't want to go back. But Miss Kathy told me to get my fanny up here, and so I did. And this was a place where I felt comfortable. I felt at ease. There was no kind of prejudice overhanging me, and I saw some folks that I knew, and some good folks that I knew, and it made me feel a lot more comfortable coming to the realization that I need to get back into church. I need to start hearing the Word, start getting myself back into the Word, and that was tough, right? It was a tough self-realization that you had to do that and get up every Sunday morning and go do it. Well, when I met Julie was the very first woman in my life, besides my mother and my grandmother, who I enjoyed going to church with, and who wanted me to go to church and encouraged me to go to church, and dare I say forced. She don't like that, but she did, and Lord knows I'm not going to disappoint her. And church became warm and inviting again when you have somebody standing next to you who loves you so much that they make you want to go back, want to get back into the Word, want to straighten your life out, and get your focus back on Jesus. And so after a little while, I decided I was going to recommit. I had another breakdown. It was tough to sit here and admit that, what a horrible sinner I was. But, it took that. And it took me, having that realization and getting back in here and seeing Pastor Mike. I remember our before we got married, we had that little council session there, and I came in with all my notes. Yeah, don't do that. I was really struggling back then to let go of all of it then even, but I got back committed. I put my face back in that Bible. I started reading. I downloaded the Bible app on my phone, and one of the most powerful things I can tell you, and I know it's an algorithm, but I don't believe it's completely an algorithm, right? Verses pop up just at the right time that you need them. And verses that when you're focusing on some bad things, or you're focusing on your guilt, or and you're trying to work through that, and you're really trying to get that off your shoulders, man, my daily verse would pop up. And then I'd spend some time reading more in the chapter, and then I'd spend some time in prayer. And man, that was just clutch. I mean, I just every time, it was just amazing how it would happen. So I encourage everybody to do that. If you haven't, it's an app on your phone. You need to do it. Sign up for the daily verses. I'm telling you, man, it's really impactful. I want others to believe in Jesus because ... I tried to live this life by myself. I was in control. Nobody else. You don't tell me what to do. I'll do what I want. Everybody else talks about the church. All those people hypocrites. Those people are worse than me. I used to say that a bunch. And I'm going to tell you, you're wrong. I was wrong. I was very, very wrong. Having the support of Jesus in my life, it's not a browbeat, you're guilty of everything type of life. It's not. I promise you. It's man, I love you so much. You don't need to do these things. Man, I love you so much. Let me show you the way you need to be. Man, I love you so much. You need to love on these other people. You need to take my love through you and love on these other people. Man, I'm going to tell you, it's a different way. It's a different perspective. My worldview changed. How I treated others changed. I used to be the unforgiving guy. Oh, I'm going to hold that grudge. I'm going to hold that grudge. I struggled with that for a long, 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 long time. And I find myself, the more I pray about it, the more I try to give it to Jesus, the easier I am about letting it go. The easier I am about just loving them anyways. That's the type of power that you get. And to experience that versus experiencing the misery of holding on to those things and being miserable, and then going out and seeking vices, and going and seeking people that have encouraged those things. It's terrible. And you feel like you have a hole in you and you can't fill it. Bucket after bucket after bucket of dirt, you can't fill that hole. It just stays there. Jesus can fill it. He did fill it. He's continuing to fill it. And I'm going to tell you guys, I tell everybody, I've lived that life. I have the experience. I have the type of experience that everybody always talks about, the big shifts. Oh, man, I can't believe he came to Jesus. Well, I was there, and I left. And I realized what it was like to leave. So that's why I encourage everybody to take a minute, open your Bible, get you a daily verse. Man, it's powerful. Spend some time in prayer. Let go. Come back to him. He'll fill that hole, I promise you.